cross-cultural design team Zobel Brands. He was a part of the advanced design teams at Jaguar Land Rover and conceptualized the DC-100 Land Rover concept car. His work also involves patent-pending design of an innovative interface for capturing valuable insights of student problem-solving approach and generate Metacog insights for their thorough presentation. A learning platform built based on this method called Zamplay has also won the NASSCOM Design for India 2019 award. As the founder director of Design Quotient Labs, DQ Labs, he is the mastermind behind the online sketch development course, which is being accessed and appreciated by students all over the world. He has also kickstarted the international study tours for architecture and design aspirants to give them the first-hand insights into the historical and contemporary developments in the field of architecture and design. Umesh enjoys advising and mentoring students to help them identify, improve, and utilize their skills in the most efficient manner. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Architect Umesh Kumar GL on behalf of McGans Ooty School of Architecture. I welcome you, sir. On to you, sir.
Thank you, Saranya. Just hold on. I was trying to get my webcam.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you so much for the introduction. Hi, Saranya, and hi, Sanil.
Hello,
Hope
sir.
everybody is doing well and safe during this pandemic.
Thank you, sir. Hope the same from you.
Yes, all good, all good. So, would you like to introduce our next speaker as well, Abishek, Architect Abishek? Yeah.
You can just go ahead, sir. The next, after your speech, the introduction will follow.
All right, okay. All right, cool. So I was told to talk about the upcoming NATA exam. Is that the topic I'm supposed to talk about?
Yes, sir. Like kind of a career guidance in architecture. How is the course? How is the profession and all?
Oh, right. Okay, so before I talk about the NATA exam, so what I would like to tell is architecture is a subject matter, and the 5 years of studies that a student goes through, right, we can actually see the transformation in them. In fact, I myself have found the transformation, and when I see my students going through 5 years of architecture, we can actually see them, the metamorphosis, like the beautiful butterflies of them, right? Not only that, they also kind of become well-rounded personalities because the kind of activities that we do while studying architecture, right? So we kind of explore going out and doing stuff on our own, and it's all hands-on, right? So it basically molds a person pretty strongly. And that is another thing that I see. In fact, we have a good example as Ratan Tata, who has studied architecture. And in one of his interviews, he has attributed his success for studying architecture because he has got that flexibility in his mindset, you know. So an engineer, let us say an engineer, okay, so they are pretty much set in their thought process, right? So whereas an architect is willing to fail by taking up new ventures and new experimentation and all that. So that kind of entrepreneurial attitude naturally comes in architects, right? And a lot of parents and some students also kind of they kind of ask sometimes, saying that, okay, is there future in architecture? Because many of the parents and students, I don't know whom they talk to, but they kind of tell in the other way, saying that, okay, students don't get enough salaries and etc. etc. So I just want to break that mindset, because that is finally boils down to that. Okay, when a student or a parent is trying to make a decision whether their child has to go towards architecture or not, always a parent thinks about the return on investment, right? So what I would like to tell to the students and the parents, if there are any parents on this forum who are listening to, what I would like to tell them is that architecture is a profession, right? Like law is a profession, like medicine is a profession, right? There is a difference between a profession and any other job, right? So number one, profession does not have any retirement. That was one of the reasons why I also got very attracted to this, because my father was a government employee, and we all know that by 60 he would have to retire, and I wanted to go into something where there is no retirement. So this profession doesn't have a retirement at any age. And most importantly, since this is a profession, a lot of things depend on you, right? So you have to be confident of your subject matter, of your practices, etc. And the 5 years that you spend time in an architecture school, you got to spend that time in the right way. So when you come out to the architecture school, you should be having at least 5 projects in your hand. So for a lot of you, you must be thinking, okay, I'm talking something very alien, but it is quite possible. So when you come out of the school, when you have 5 projects in hand, you will never ask for a job, right? So what all you got to do in those 5 years to become such an independent person, a professional, you have to build your network, you got to gain your confidence, have practice, and experience the practice, and etc. Right? So once you study or utilize your 5 years of architecture, you would be pretty strong in your profession with 5 projects in hand, and there will never be a question saying, okay, I'm going to so-and-so architect, I'm trying to practice under him, and he's paying me some 20K, 25K per month, which is of no use, right? So you will not be getting into that situation. So my advice to the aspiring architecture students who are considering or not considering because there is no pay in this field, you have to come out of that mindset. There is plenty of opportunities. In fact, I am part of certain architects groups where we try to help out each other in terms of professionally, and I see fantastic work, fantastic volume of work that is happening all across. And if somebody is crying and cribbing and saying that they are not having enough projects, then probably you have to relook into what you're doing, right? So architecture is a pretty strong profession. It is very satisfying because you are the first person in and last person out of any project, and you are the key change maker, right? So you are that guy who will make things happen within the budget, right? So that way it is very satisfying, very lucrative and beneficial as well. Now, once you do architecture, it's not that you are stuck with architecture. You can also look into allied fields. There are many interesting fields. For example, once I have finished architecture, my 5 years of architecture, I started practicing, and I did practice for 3 years freelancing. And when I was doing that, I did some projects. And while I was doing the projects, I figured that I had some limitations in what I could do, right? And to bridge those gap of limitations, I went on to do my master's from IIT Delhi, and I have done industrial design. Now, when I was going into IIT for doing industrial design, I went there with the objective of learning how to create those objects that are used within a built space. So as an architect, I was trained to create spaces, right? Whether interiors, exteriors, or different kinds of spaces, and etc. Right? But when it comes to choosing the objects or accessories that we use within this space, I found a lot of limitation because when I was practicing between 1999 to 2002, okay, so internet was not that prominent. The accessibility to sourcing products was very limited, and etc. So I was kind of stuck because especially one project where I had conceptualized a futuristic kind of a space. We have actually done the space, but when it comes to choosing the accessories like knobs and handles and etc., I had no choices, you know. So whatever options we had, they were not fitting into the kind of space I have envisioned and I was trying to do. So that motivated me to go into industrial design. Industrial design is design of products in the industry. It's not about designing of industries, right? So I never thought that I would go in a different direction altogether. And it happened that when I was in IIT, campus placements used to be there for designers. So a company named as General Motors, an automotive company, they came, they saw my work, they did some testing, and they found it. They offered me, right? So in fact, it was offered to me and my classmate Sean Disa. We are both founders and partners of DQ Labs. So that is how our journey has started. But then I was given this opportunity to work on the cars, and that was, I never expected that, right? And I was kind of thinking, okay, why not I open my horizons, right? So that has given me a completely new opportunity. It had helped me to travel abroad. I have been to 30 different countries. I have worked with international design teams. My latest project was on redesigning the iconic Land Rover DC100, right? Now you can see it in the market, right? So the design language, what we have conceptualized in 2010, about 2010, it has come into the market now. So I got an opportunity to work on such kind of wonderful projects and etc. So what I want to tell is architecture is not binding you to one profession, and it's not that you cannot do something else. You can do a lot of other things as well within the space of design. For example, I have gone into industrial design and have become an automotive designer, and now I have transitioned into education, right? So we are doing some very good projects of international standard in the space of education, right? So in that connection, we have actually built this edutech platform called Examplay, which has won NASSCOM's Design for India award, and it has also been a finalist in the UK e-assessment awards. So as an architect, I get all these opportunities, right? So in fact, if you look at my classmates, what they are doing, so some of them are vice presidents in some construction companies. Some of them have put up their own practices and practicing as landscape architect. Some of them are working in the US. Very interestingly, one of my classmates is in the US. He is into monitoring the epidemics. He's in the space of town and urban planning, and he has transitioned into monitoring and containing of pandemics. So his services are being used tremendously in this kind of a pandemic situation, right? So, and one of my juniors he's a vice president in HSBC Bank, and you will be thinking what an architect is doing in a bank. Now, for his master's, he has done GIS, Geographic Information Systems, and then now with his architectural knowledge and the GIS knowledge, and he is helping to in HSBC Bank, he is helping them to validate the loan applications which comes for purchase of lands and etc. So what he does is he kind of analyzes the quality of land and whether it is suitable for that particular activity or not, and then he kind of gives his advices. So you never know where you end up. There are plenty of opportunities available out there. Architecture is a fantastic field to study, and I'm so happy that I was able to get into that field. So in this context, what I would like to tell is not many people used to know about architecture. Even now, a lot of people do not know, but just imagine in 1994 when I went into architecture, right? So thankfully, my dad has accepted for me to study architecture. So when I got the seat, I came very happy to home, and I was giving out sweets to my friends and etc. And my grandfather was there, and he asked, "Okay, what are you celebrating for?" So I said, "I got a seat in architecture." And he said, "Oh, okay. So what's great about it? Archaeology. What are you going to do in archaeology?" Right? So they did not know the difference between archaeology and architecture. Right, so thankfully now people know, especially if you're from cities and etc. You can see great buildings that have been built, and there is a lot of exposure. So what I would like to close my session is saying that it's a great opportunity. If you utilize your 5 years of architecture in the right way, you would not be in a position where you will be seeking opportunities in another architectural firm and then cribbing, saying that, okay, I'm not getting paid properly. And you also have to think from the other perspective, right? So you're a professional, and if you're seeking a job from another professional, okay, why should another professional give you a job? And why are you seeking the job in the first place? You're seeking the job in the first place because you do not have the opportunity, you do not have the clients, you do not have the network, you do not know the know-how, you don't have the practice or experience. So why should another professional hire you for your lack of these abilities and then also pay you more? Doesn't make sense, right? No smart architect does that, right? So, yeah, so that's what I would like to tell. Right? Any questions anybody has, please feel free to ask.
So finally, we'll have a question answer session.
Sure. All right. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So,
yes, sir. So you have concluded, right, sir?
yes, pretty much. I think I have concluded. If you want me to speak something more, you can ask me. I can go on.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. And in fact, that was an excellent coverage on architecture as a course and a career, telling the audience how fascinating the field is. So thank you so much. And now to the audience, we'll be playing a video on McGans Ooty School of Architecture and the campus life. Over to you, Hari sir.
Yes.
A warm welcome to Mr. N. Murali Kumar, Chairman of the McGans Ooty School of Architecture. The first MOU under this new program will be signed with McGans Ooty School of Architecture, which was started in 2008 under the chairmanship of Sri N. Murali Kumar. As a first step, SEP will support the teaching and learning in the first year of McGans Bachelor's Program in Architecture.
The MOU will be signed by Dr. Limal Patel and Sri Murali Kumar. RTH, congratulations to all of us.
McGans is always focused on producing industry-ready professionals, starting with a 6 months to 1 year internship program as part of the university curriculum. When it comes to students of final year's architectural thesis, our experienced faculties focus on educating the students on building bylaws, awareness of the urban context, etc. Through this, we ensure that our graduates practice in architectural forms of good standards. We also have a finishing school in our campus that we consider as an important part of the BA course. We also work in collaboration with the Collectorate of Nilgiris on various street art and public space development projects, starting at the local level itself. We have recently signed an MOU with SEP University and have started with the FSDS, Foundational Skills for Design Students program for the first year students, ensuring that we lay a very strong foundation at the base level. Thank you. this program, introduced in collaboration with Seth University, we teach students basic design and the technical skills through interactive exercises.
The teaching methodology we follow is showing students step by step the process of the video, of the exercises, and giving brief explanation of the same.
The exercise modules, which also involve working models, are formulated well in advance and are carefully sequenced to improve their quality of work.
We maintain a record of the feedback from students where they have responded positively to the course and found a significant improvement in their design abilities.
Hi, I'm Gautam Sunil and I'm from Trivandrum, Kerala, and I'm studying in McGans School of Architecture Ooty. FSDS, Foundation Studio. Well, FSDS came in like a surprise. Even though it was hectic and was not part of our academic syllabus, it has given us a foundation on drawing and concepts on how to visualize and understand shapes in different angles. I still remember our Asabla's assignment in which we had a lot of fun and how we spent a lot of time just to get a new shape which we haven't seen yet. So I'm pretty sure that the time we spend for FSDS will be helpful throughout the 5 years that we are.
Generally, in architectural education, particularly in the higher semesters, portfolios are considered to be very important. But in first year, we prioritize on the process more than the end product.
After we came into the field of architecture, our perspective on seeing the basic things has changed. As a result, we have developed originality, creativity, and skill. We understood architecture as a gateway to new dimension where we can create and see things to a new manner. And then we learned about positive and negative space where imagination and creativity comes into play.
The exercises we have in first year primarily focus on three things: observation, exploration, and application. We expose students to these techniques that helps them in approaching architectural design subsequently.
In the first year, we also make sure all the students orient themselves to the scope of art as architecture. We incorporate theoretical concepts of architectural history into art exercises like modeling.
Also important in first year, we bring in concept of mathematics and architectural drawing, which is fundamental to the skill set required in the future semesters. In second year, we make sure the students undergo a smooth transition from basic design concepts into the architectural design specifically.
To be more sensitive towards spatial association with anthropometry, we undertake a rural study that exposes the students to the impact of architectural design on human to settlement level.
Subjects like climatology help students to design spaces that incorporate the ideas of thermal comfort.
Also in this year, we introduced different techniques suitable for practical planning and construction of building projects in depth.
We felt a significant shift coming into the second year and exploring architectural design in detail. Our faculties ensure that we adapt well to the new concept we are exposed to.
We were taught various theoretical concepts such as thermal comfort, structural system, etc. that defined our design abilities.
Yes. Thank you, Harisa. Now, I would like to introduce to you all our next the day, a youngster, an architect, product designer, interior designer, computational designer, educator, motivational speaker, beatboxer, and an entrepreneur. He is none other than architect Abishek Bhaskar. He completed his bachelor's DS ATM in the year 2000. Further, in 2019, he became the founder of DERT Lab and visiting faculty for parametric architecture at several colleges like BMS, SIT, and DS ATM. He has also received various prestigious awards such as the Most Promising Architect of the Year 2019 and national awards for his contribution to Udaipur Smart City Street Redesign 2017, Innovative Design Award and A3F Youngster Achiever Award for A3 Foundation Chandigarh. We are all very pleased to have architect Abishek Bhaskar here with us today to discuss on this topic. On behalf of McGans, you, sir.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, you are.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. Hello, Sanal sir, and hello, Dean sir as well, Salva Kumar sir. It's great to be here, and thank you firstly for having me and architect Umesh sir as well. It's great to discuss what architecture is and what the future holds as well. That's the main reason I'm here today, I think. So, firstly, as ma'am said, I do two things and just these two things, right? One is I'm an architect by profession, and also I do a couple of other things in the allied field of architecture. Apart from that, I'm also a beatboxer, so I want to start this in a high energy session. So how many of you know what is beatboxing? Can you just put your hand up as an emoji or something like that? So if you don't know what is beatboxing, it's basically so all that came out of my mouth, right? So that in its essence is beatboxing. I don't want to take up more time with that. So even when it comes to architecture, that's one of the main reasons why in fact I got into architecture, right? It gives me the ability, which for me is way more important than any other end product, right? So it gives me the ability to be free and explore my creative pursuits, whatever it is that I want to do. At the end of the day, I don't want to sit behind a desk. Again, this is just for me, right? I don't want to sit behind a desk and keep working. I want to explore and do whatever it is that I want to do at that particular point of time. So beatboxing gave me that freedom when I started off, right? And slowly, as the moment I had finished my +2, I was figuring out what it is that I wanted to do. I wanted to get into biotech, right? I was a major science nerd even at that point. So science combined with this beatboxing was my X thing, as you say, right? So again, at that point of time, I wanted to explore. Biotech was still under the engineering and the science bit of it. I was interested in science, but it's not to the level that I wanted to take up science as my main career. I didn't want to work in, say, biocon or companies like that. So there I had this friend who again, we go to all these tuitions and all these places where we meet new people. So they basically there was this one person who said there is no mathematics in architecture. Right, so that kind of excited me a lot. And again, as it is with so many people, maths is not one of our favorite subjects, I would say, to put it kindly. But again, right now, maths has become my entire life, right? So that is how life works in different ways. So at that point of time, I didn't like maths, at least the academic math, which is taught to students in their curriculum. So the maths which I work with right now is totally different. So yeah, that kind of excited me. And also it reminded me of a time when I was in my third or second standard, I'm not too sure. And I had drawn a dream house of mine. And it was actually in the top view. Again, at that point, I didn't know what was plan, what was elevation, and all that. So I just drawn it. If I was seeing the house from the top, how would I draw it? Like my dream house, right? So there were so many things wrong with it, but like the grass and all these hatchings I had done as well. So my mom fortunately framed that and kept it. And again, I didn't know there was a field called architecture, right? As it is with many students and parents nowadays. Even when I told my parents that there's no mathematics in architecture, at least that's what I think. I'm not telling you guys there's no mathematics, but at least that's what I thought. And when I went to my parents, I told them I want to take up architecture, right? They were like, what is architecture? Is it similar to engineering, civil engineering, right? That's what they relate it with. So I told them, no, it's basically, it has to do with the design of buildings. Civil engineers, they're more into the construction and the more of the implementation side of it, right? So they basically do all the maths. That's how I told my parents. So fortunately, they were kind enough to allow me to take up architecture. And again, I wasn't too concerned about whether to create an income source, right? So again, for me, as well as the students who are getting into architecture, this is one thing which I would always recommend you look into, right? When you enter a particular field, don't think of the monetary as the first big image which you want to explore when you enter an industry, right? Don't get into architecture for just to make money and become rich. If you approach architecture that way, most likely you won't make money out of it, right? But what I would rather recommend is look at architecture from a creative and a freedom standpoint, right? It will liberate you in terms of giving you the tools and skill sets to basically express yourself any way you like, right? So think of everything as a triangle, like a pyramid, right? So the topmost should be your vision of what it is that is ultimately that you want to achieve with architecture, right? Why study architecture? Why not? So if you really want to do money, just look at it from a monetary perspective. I'm just going to design to make money. That's not going to be your right approach. You are rather well off trading stocks and making money. There's better money there. So why not, if that money is your intent, right? But if you are interested in creative liberation, I think architecture is the best industry to get into. Basically, it helps you, right? And one of the byproducts of architecture is money. So don't focus on the monetary when you get into an industry, but focus on the larger vision, which is creative liberation, and money will obviously be a byproduct of that. It's lower down the pyramid, right? That does not mean it will be valuable. You will make way more money not thinking about money, right? If you're able to understand this, you will make more money when you don't think about whether you're going to make money or not about it, right? So don't think about money. Think on the creative pursuits, and money will flow by itself. That is the basic gist of the idea. So again, when I got into architecture, I'm sure most of the students can relate to this, right? So primarily you got there are two options you would have got into this. Either you have nothing else to do, like you don't want to get into engineering, this is the only option left, or you're genuinely interested in architecture, right? Either ways, it is good that you're taking the jump to get into architecture. Mainly because of the creative liberation. Even in my case, I didn't want to take up engineering, right? That was a strict no for me, because I know people who have taken up engineering and the amount of time it takes, right? For me, I'm a beatboxer, right? So I keep traveling all across India, performing and, all these things. So I needed the time. And again, I thought architecture would give me time, but, it helped me in so many other different ways. So even when I got into architecture and I told my HOD, Professor Mukund sir, right, that I'm a beatboxer and this is what I do. So he thought it's boxing. So I told him, no, sir, this is basically that is beatboxing. So, you know, he was like, oh, this is beatboxing. Okay, so then we will be bunking class. And he told me nicely to don't bunk class. So again, at that point of time, I got into architecture mainly for its creative liberation, right? So I wasn't technically interested in the architecture itself. I was interested in how much of time, free time it would give me. But what ended up happening is the exact opposite, right? I started falling in love with architecture. It was sort of like meeting your girlfriend for the first time or boyfriend for the first time, right? So it's something which liberated me to such a level that I started falling in love with it, because the creative ideas, whatever is there in my head, is what I could bring to the table in terms of discussing with my jurors and professors and, you know, so many other things. And for me, like, again, many students, they don't like staying late up, and I love doing it, right? For me, more than even like day before yesterday, right, I was working on a particular visualization. I'm also into world building as well, which I'll showcase at a later point. So, you know, I was discussing, and I think around 4 a.m. I just woke up because I had this idea in my dream, which I had to get it out on paper, right? So I just went into my system and I quickly made a 3D model, and I just went back to sleep so that the next morning I wake up, it's all ready for me in terms of, so that I don't forget it in my dream and all that. So again, for me, it is a major source of creative liberation. And even if the parents are joining this call, please understand that about you know, your kids. It's more to do with creative liberation and ultimately their happiness at the end of the day, right? That is way more important. The monetary aspect will follow eventually. If they are really good at it, it will follow. You don't have to worry about it. In fact, I would go so far as to say that making money with architecture is one of the most easiest things they can do, right? If they're really good at it, they don't need to worry about making money. Money will just keep flowing in. You don't have to think about making where the next part of the money chunk would come from, right? That is how easy it is compared to other fields, right? Other fields, you have to get a job or you have to do something, right? So here in architecture, you can literally do anything. I'll explain what I'm doing as well, and you can make a living for yourself, right? And also, most importantly, be happy doing it. It's not like you're forced to do architecture, right? I wasn't forced to do architecture. I chose it myself, and I started falling in love with it, right? Because of, okay, I get to design these amazing things, and whatever is there in my head, again, I love expressing, right? So as you might have seen right now. So when I started doing all these things and I started building my own skyscrapers and, you know, things like that, that was a beautiful experience. And, you know, that is what architecture, in fact, enabled me to do in terms of developing this analytical thought process and just exploring whatever is hidden inside your head. It's like an unlimited memory disk which needs to keep going out, right? So yeah, that's what I've been doing with architecture. And when I passed out of 2017 from BIAC, I basically wanted to focus on parametric design or computational design, which is basically the easiest way to explain this would be coding meets design, right? That is what that involves mathematics, understanding, having an analytical thought process in all your architecture works, and developing various futuristic design concepts for your clients and for yourself as well, right? So I started this company, and again, I still remember when I got this idea for Dirt Lab, right, which is DERT Lab. So Dirt Lab basically started off in 2018, like around 2 o'clock in the morning. So I basically was trying to figure out what it is that I want to do with the tools and skill sets which I know, right? I wanted to work on design ultimately, obviously, right? So which is design. And again, what was missing in the academic curriculum, I wanted to solve that as well through education, right? I also wanted to focus on research. One of my research projects, I'll show that to you as well, where I've fused beatboxing and architecture together. So that was in terms of research and technology, because I'm a major tech geek, right? Give me anything in terms of tech, I'll just lap it up as soon as possible. So I was figuring out DRET, DTRE, and all these things. So finally I ended up with DIRT, because again, for me, the fundamentals of this would be design, education, research, and technology. Whatever we figure out in terms of research, we feed that back to the students in terms of education, right? We don't want to have a lapse in time, because if we figure out version 1 and we teach students that same version, they'll figure out version 2, 3. Overall, the entire industry is developing without any wastage of time, right? So that is the most important thing. And whatever we bring in terms of research, we push that to our clients as a design as well. So under design, we have architecture, product, interiors, and a couple of other design verticals. And under education, we teach summer schools, winter schools, and parametric design, procedural design. We teach how to design your own skyscraper in a matter of minutes, and also how to map an entire place or any particular place on earth in a matter of 15 to 20 minutes, right? So these are the things which we try to teach students, so that your time is the most important thing, right? So even if I'm here spending, say, 30 minutes to talk to you guys, that is a good investment of time into this particular initiative of mine, right? So it works that way. Figure out what it is that you want to do with your time, and then go ahead and do it and complete it, most importantly. And even as architects, we're always good at starting, right? So we also need to be good at finishing stuff, right? Especially me, that is my major self-critique for myself. I start so many things, but for example, if I start 1,000 things, I probably complete like a 1:10 ratio of it, right? So, but which is good, because again, if you don't start, you can never finish anything, right? So, but that is one bit of advice to the students. Take it up, and always get into a creative pursuit. Ultimately, at the end of the day, even with the rise of AI and ML, right? Even if repetitive jobs, if that is your thing, right, the bots are obviously coming for those jobs, right? So we as humans are meant to do more creative aspects of life. So we are meant to design, we're designed to think, right? So different aspects like that. We're not meant to sit behind and do repetitive tasks. That is not meant for us at this point of time, right? So it was there probably 10, 15 or 20 years ago, or beyond that, obviously. But now the quality of life which we're supposed to lead, or which we're meant to lead, is meant to be way more creative than what we're doing right now, which is why I'm focused on what the future is and what this decade is going to be bringing as well. So in fact, last year, just before COVID happened, I was at an award ceremony. I got the Edupreneur of the Year 2020. This was back in Jan, I think. And I was just telling, there was also a panel discussion which I was a part of, like, what does this next decade hold for us, for humans, right? So I was just, by mistake, I still didn't know COVID was going to be such a major thing, right? So I just told the entire panel and the viewers there, it was actually a physical conference, not a virtual one like this, that I told them even by as early as this year or next year, right, which is 21, which is right now. So we could be meeting virtually in terms of our avatars and, having these virtual conferences. I didn't know at that point it would actually become a reality so soon. I meant probably 2-3 years down the line, right? So this is how things quickly change, and how quickly even we humans have adapted, right? So all the repetitive tasks, we are meant to take over a more creative asset class of people, right? We're not meant to do repetitive tasks. Bots will eventually take that over. Even in architecture, right? If a client doesn't like your design, again, for the students, you don't need to worry about this. Just think of it as if your teacher doesn't like your work, right? So you'll have to redo it again. Like if you don't like a sentence, you'll have to erase it out and write it again, right? So if you have to do that, again, bots are already doing that. So where is an architect's position in the design industry, right? So we are mainly going to be focusing in the future on the creative aspects and the soul of architecture. That is going to be the most important bit. All the other drafting and manual labor tasks, right? So that will be taken over by the system or the computer system, which is going to do the task for you. You don't need to manually draft every single thing again and again, right? You just design the system of it, right? As even architect Umesh sir had done it before, right? Yeah. So he's more into designing systems, right? That is the most important thing. You need to design your system in such a way that you don't invest the repetitive time taken to do repetitive work. So just do it once, and you can generate millions of versions of it, which are each different in nature from the previous example or iteration which you have done, right? I think that is the most important thing which students should focus on. I think even if it is, if you want to take away something from today, it is basically what architecture can give you, right? And also don't think that everything will be, spoon fed in terms of the architecture industry. It is so vast. Again, no, even if it's 5 years, which is comparatively longer than your engineering and other courses, right? It's not about whether it's longer, or that shouldn't be a hindrance to you if you're really interested in architecture, right? There is so much to learn that even 5 years honestly is not enough, right? You will keep learning and learning. You have to constantly keep adapting. So if I just learned what was taught to me, I wouldn't probably be into computational design or procedural design, right? So that is one thing which I would encourage students to explore. Architecture is meant to be an exploratory industry, right? You explore all the different things. So something which I'm doing in terms of, when I'm talking about exploration is basically I'm into research in terms of beatboxing and architecture, right? Again, this is not something which college or anyone could teach you, because this is not something which is meant for everyone, right? So, but architecture helped me in understanding what I can do with the knowledge which I have right now. So I made the decision to focus on my research, which is basically designing using the human voice, right? So again, for thousands of years, humans have been designing with a pen and paper, and they go ahead and they draw it, right? But what if we could change that? So if we take the pen and paper and we put that into our voice, and what if we could design using the human voice? Basically, that is the core intent of this particular subject, so research project. So I wanted to do that, and I've been working on it since 2017. And just a couple of months ago, I released it as an NFT. So NFTs are basically, you can Google it. These are non-fungible tokens, which is basically digital ownership, right? So you don't need to worry about that right now. But basically, you can see the human voice interacting in real time, rather than always hearing it. So even if you close your eyes right now, you can only hear my voice. But what does my voice actually sound like in terms of the physics and the how it actually works, right? So you just see my mouth moving, right? But it doesn't actually mean you can see the human voice. So this particular NFT of mine is called Meta Voice, which is the world's first beatboxing generated art. So essentially, I designed the art piece using my human voice, right? So that was one thing which I did back in 2017. And I wanted to publish this as a research paper, but it would reach a wider audience if I launched it as an NFT, which is what I did, right? I wanted the entire world to see that, okay, you can actually design using the human voice. So next, even for people who are differently able, who are not able to access their systems, they can basically design using the human voice, right? They can tell, okay, move 5 meters or something like that in the future, ultimately, right? So different things like that is what I love working on. And even in terms of, say, if you're interested in the scope, right? Architecture in terms of building is just one tiny fraction of what architecture ultimately is, right? Of course, that is what you're taught in institutions where you can design buildings, right? That is the core intent. But architecture right now has become such a vast subject in terms of what you can actually do with architecture, like the knowledge which you've gained from architecture, right? So you can design, sets for a film, right? And that is becoming extremely reliant, because again, the people who design sets who are not architects, they don't understand anthropology, which is what you'll be learning once you get into architecture, right? What is the size of humans? What are the dimensions which human scale works with, right? What is the size of the table? What should that be? All that information is not accessible to non-architects, right? Unless they know what anthropology is and they get into it. So that becomes very important. So even in terms of set design, right? You get to design all these movie sets. One of the use case could be Jurassic World, right? And what I'm primarily working on also as part of Dirt Lab and my other alter ego, which is I am Abverse on Twitter, is basically I'm developing these digital assets for the metaverse, right? Metaverse is a digital universe which is created. So again, as an architect, I'm working on those projects which will never exist in reality, right? Again, we are entering a future within this decade. If you haven't seen the movie Ready Player One, I would implore you to watch the movie. This is probably, I don't think anyone would say this during an introductory seminar, but please go watch this movie called Ready Player One, right? Without fail, today itself. Right, so there basically humans are all wearing their virtual reality headsets, and they're in this digital universe which they've created, and they spend all their time there. And we are ultimately heading towards such a digital universe. So someone has to keep it ready for humans to come in, right? So I'm basically developing these digital assets for the future in the virtual space. So when they come in, when they plug their headsets in, they can see a skyscraper, they can see a building which is designed in the metaverse for them to stay in. Right, things like that. So that is one part of Dirt Lab. Apart from that, we have our real life architecture, interior design, product design, and all these things which are there. But yeah, this in its essence is what architecture can enable you to do it. What the main takeaway I would implore you to look into is basically understand architecture. Like spend the 5 years into doing every creative action possible, right? Every creative task. And then look at what it is that you're good at. What is your USP, right? For example, me, it was beatboxing, and I wanted to develop something in terms of tech side. So which is why I got into developing the the digital universe, which is called the metaverse, as well as non-fungible tokens, which goes into blockchain and cryptography and all those things. And as well as I want to develop things for the current as well, which is like the architecture and product design and things like that. So this in its essence is what you should focus on as well. What it is that you are really interested in, or what is unique to your creative pursuits. What is it that you want to do? Do you want to be another architect among a long list of architects, or do you want to do something different and create your own company, right? Employment is one aspect of it. Obviously you will get employed if you're really good at it. But if you want to take the plunge and do something different, right? So then you can by any means figure out what it is that you're good at. So also in these 5 years, right, simultaneously when you're learning architecture, also remove the blinds and figure out what are all the different options of what it is that makes you happy, right? For me, beatboxing makes me happy. Whenever I beatbox, people smile, and that makes me happy, right? I don't know what the word for that is called. When you see other people happy, it makes you happy, right? So again, for me, that fuels the end of the day. Again, if I thought of getting into beatboxing purely for the purpose of money, I wouldn't have been where I am today, right? So even now, like on a per show basis, even if I do one show a month, it's equal to like an architect's 1 month of salary, right? But I'm not focused on that. But see, look at where what happens to you when you don't focus on the monetary aspects of it, right? It's like that. So I can do one 20-minute show and be done for the entire month. I can just relax, right? But I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at the bigger goal, which is the creative satisfaction and bringing happiness to people, right? Happiness costs a lot, right? So it's like that. So you can essentially think of creative satisfaction as a means for liberating yourself. Monetary and all that, you leave it for a byproduct nature of obviously of the pyramid. I think that is what I would like to leave you guys with. That should be the most important takeaway for today. If you're a student or if you're a parent, allow your kids to explore. If you're a student, please explore a creative path. Ultimately, that is going to be the future. The moment you get into repetitive tasks, it's depreciating, what do you call it? The amount of tasks which you'll eventually be given will start reducing, and the bots will start taking over more of it, right? So your value keeps decreasing. So what I would rather, whereas your creative works is an appreciating asset, right? The more creative aspects you learn, the more higher you keep going. Whereas if you keep repeating the task, it will just keep a straight line, or eventually it will drop down. So consider all these points when you're getting into architecture, and it's one of the most liberating fields you can get into to invest your 5 years of time, right? And again, you're investing 5 years of your time into this particular field. So I would strongly urge you to learn something different apart from architecture is what you're given, right? But apart from that, if you're really craving for something, explore all the things which you are good at. For me, it was beatboxing. So I fused beatboxing and architecture together, right? So again, that set me apart from everyone else, right? And the same way, if every single person is able to do it, that's going to be an amazing thing. So if you're an employee, it means that you'd like to do something, and you can still do something different as an employee. You can become an asset to the company as well, right? That is how you become an asset to the company, by doing something different for the company, right? So there is no right or wrong in architecture. That's also another beauty of it, right? You can do whatever you'd like, whatever is there in your head, you can bring it out. There is no right or wrong, right? So yeah, I think that is what I would like to leave you guys with. I don't want to take up more of your time. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can shoot them once. I think Sharanya ma'am, I think once you let me know whenever it is a good time.
Sure, sir. First of all, I would like to thank you for that excellent coverage on architecture as a course and career. You inspired us with your energy and enthusiasm, and the way you fell in love with architecture was just amazing. It was such a lively talk. Your thoughts of having a happy and a liberated life and your connection with architecture is indeed amazing as well. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Now to the audience, we'll be playing the continuation on that video of McGans Architecture School and the campus life.
System extra that defined our design abilities. Theoretical concepts such as thermal comfort, structural system extra that defined our design.
College has always relied on all-round development for the students, making them realize their full potential as social beings. The college has a great resource in the Alumni Association and has keen adding onto it with its great initiatives such as Alumni Meet, conferences, in-house publications, among others. This has brought about an active cultural glimpse of which can be seen in the organization of events and participation of students in these ways.
In third year,
There is a major shift towards the technical aspects of architectural design, where the students are more conscious about the structure and services by default, having in mind the practicality.
Subjects like building houses helps students figure out operational challenges associated with build spaces.
This is also a time where we concentrate on developing the site planning skills of the students, with the project skills being relatively larger than the previous semesters.
When we started our third year architecture design, we were educated more on the practicality of building construction that goes hand in hand with the design process.
We took on landscape projects such as housing development, office complexes, etc. They taught us the importance of site planning.
In the fourth year, we prepare the students to come up with more site contextual design, particularly in the urban context. This helps students to conceptualize design solutions at various levels of the built environment.
The students undertake an intensive data collection process in the site itself. A specific city that is chosen every year, and tools such as surveys, interviews, and photo documentations are employed in this process.
With this conceptual information, the students are able to design more efficiently and site-specific. The focus of creating more interactive spaces in their design.
This particular skill in architectural design also makes students aware about the scope and possibilities in the field of urban design as a career option in the future.
For our urban design studio this year, we undertook a structured survey and data collection study of 9 peri-urban settlements in families.
We surveyed streets, junctions, and neighborhoods and identified issues faced by the local people through interviews.
We compiled this data and came up with the creative design interventions to improve the quality of life of the community.
Thesis is the culmination of knowledge acquired over the semesters, inculcated with a spirit of research and architecture.
We facilitate the students with a coherent line of independent thinking and let them express the very clear agendas for their own projects.
We offer the students an opportunity to experiment through the various tools and technologies of their own interest with the support of mentors.
Based on accepted norms with the consideration of social impact, which is well analyzed through the critical perspective, that would help strengthen their thesis process.
Our supervisors have guided us really well regardless of the pandemic, and we feel really grateful for them.
Our thesis was when we got to explore and come up with innovative ideas and technological improvements, and our supervisors motivated us to think outside the box.
We've been trying to innovate and improve architectural education through systematic integration of research and analysis in various stages of design. We have organized setting up of our own online platform and even tried including different applications to supplement the concept of information for students even during the lockdown. Now the design pedagogy also includes interactive systems and tries to improve their acumen in grasping and integrating social skills, communications and discussions. This has been always our attempt, and the SEP McGans Association is one of the many steps we take.
பொங்கல் செலிப்ரேஷன்ங்களா?
Thank you, Hari sir. So now the forum is open for question and answer session. The audience can turn on your mics or open up your public chat boxes, and you can drop in your questions over there, or you can voice it over the mic also. On to the audience, please. Students, we have very interesting panelists here, and they are ready to answer your questions based on architecture as a career, or even if you have any doubts pertaining to the course, the curriculum, etc., you can ask us. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Seems everybody is little apprehensive of asking questions. Whenever I try to meet up students or parents in seminars like this, they are a little apprehensive whether they can ask question or not. So what I generally do is I ask them questions, okay, to break the ice. So I would like to start with, okay, how many of you are considering to join architecture? You can say yes or no to begin with. How many of you are considering to do architecture? If you are doing it, if you are planning to do, you can say yes, I'm interested. But if you're not interested, you can also say no, I'm not interested. There you go. So Mithali is saying yes. Samudara is saying yes. Awesome, that's perfect. Ramanish, yes, 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 that's good. That's good. So I presume you're all in your 12th grade, right? Yes, you're on your 12th grade. Okay, that's cool. So my next question is, why are you planning to do architecture? What is that one reason why you are planning to do architecture? It could be like, for example, you hate engineering, or I love architecture, or maybe my dad wants me to do architecture, or maybe my friend is doing, so I also want to do architecture. It could be anything. So it can be open. Let's have some fun. Let us see what are the reasons. So Mithali is saying, I get inspired by seeing beautiful structures and buildings. Yes, it is very satisfying when you see, by just looking at those buildings, when you feel satisfied, imagine creating those buildings, how much more satisfying that experience would be, isn't it? Okay. Okay. So I'm sorry for that. I'm occupying my son's room, so he's also curious to see what's happening. So it's behind me, right? Yes. So anybody in this room who are planning to do architecture because they are creative, they want to do something, they want to build something? Because that would be an interesting audience, right? Yes. So Jacob is saying yes. All right. So my next question is, okay, how many of you have given the NATA exam already? We had one session a couple of months back, right? So how many of you have already given NATA exam? So if you have already given, you can say first attempt, yes. To easily identify, probably you can say yes, given. First attempt given. All right. So Mithali has already given first attempt. So they changed the pattern this year, isn't it? Yeah, so they removed the drawing aspect and they made everything based on the questions. All right, so how did you find that exam? Difficult, easy, moderate? Sriram has also given first attempt. That's perfect. It is okay. All right. Anybody found it easy or difficult? Twisted. Yes, Thirumalai. Twisted. Unexpected. Yes.
Means?
Yeah, crazy. Twisted. Yeah, yeah. All right. So since you all are planning to go into architecture, you already have given architectural entrance exam, and there is of course one more attempt next month, right, to give the exam, right? So if you want to have some practice and etc., DQ Labs, Design Quotient Labs, has a beautiful platform called as edge.dqlabs.in. We welcome you to explore the platform. There are some free material that is available, so you can access that free material as well. So if you want to access the platform, you can do so by joining into edge.dqlabs.in and typing it in the chat window. And please go to the NATA JE and choose the option of practice. So there are a few mock tests, past year papers, and etc. Please access them. So it is not only trying to understand the past questions, but when you attempt them, we also give you analysis and insights, actionable insights in terms of how you can improve your score. So you should be looking at that particular topic, actionable insights, so that you can actually gain information on how you can get more marks in your second attempt. Okay, so Mithali, so you're asking a fantastic question, sir, on what topic should we concentrate? Now, this is what we call as actionable insights, because Mithali, so for you, the topic could be different. For me, the topic could be different. So what it should be has to be like driven by some AI, right? So basically what this platform does is when you take a mock test or a practice test on that, it will give you throw upon some actionable insights, which will help you understand where or what topic you should be focusing on. All right, so that will give you direction, and your question will be answered through Edge platform rather than me telling you what is the topic that you should be studying, right? So Dr. Sanil Kumar is here. I'm sorry, I think I have hijacked because there were no questions, no flow happening. I just took over and I'm trying to bring in some action.
We actually appreciate that we have two interactive speakers and we have a very interactive audience. It's actually a good thing to a webinar, that we have a very, close set of interactions that are happening, and there's movement in the webinar. It is not still. Onwards, and I've seen that a lot of people have logged in. By the time it was 3:10, 3:15, it was just a good sign. And I'm happy that you're also enjoying the conversation and you're interacting with the students, and they all have these concerns. That's why these webinars are very important for them, and they can tell everyone to come and address and come and express their concerns, whatever concerns they have regarding architecture as a profession. Because today they had a wonderful combination. They had two architects and 2 architects who are also doing a lot of other activities which is related to architecture but which is going beyond.
Yes.
So that's one very critical, because we always kind of restrict ourselves in a in a time frame, architecture. They tell you Frank Lloyd Wright, then they tell you Le Corbusier, and then they come to B.B. Doshi, and then they're like, this is all architecture. But let us look at the architects as personalities. Let us look at the human side architecture also, and let us see the imagination that has gone way ahead. We are talking about AI. That's what I'm happy that the discussions went into AI. The discussions went into combinations of research. Discussions went into the fact that everybody started in the profession with a reluctance, but then they realize that the profession is going beyond, and they're able to explore more things. So that can be people who have done things in the profession, and they are now here to speak. So I'm happy that the students are finding these personalities amidst them, and they are able to ask and address you. And I'm very sure everybody is going to remember this particular webinar, because it has gone completely unconventional. It's not the formal, hello, we are introducing and we are doing this, but there's been a lot of, let me say, a lot of beat and rhythm to it. So this has been a really good. I don't want to obstruct any more questions. If there are more questions, they can be addressed. And I just wanted to say, in case there are some students who have their concerns and they want to know more, they can forward their phone numbers or email IDs in the public chat. So our school or our institution will also get in touch with them and forward them any details or any content that is required in terms of knowing or reading more about architecture as a career, architecture as alternatives, as finding alternatives in architecture. You heard of a lot of alternatives today. I'm very sure the audience has heard a lot, but there are a lot more, and music. That's what music was one of them, but there are more. So there is a lot of research which is going on, a lot of linkages. I'm very happy that Abishek was able to come in with a lot of these insights. I'm happy that this kind of research is happening from India. I'm very glad and very joyous that this is happening, and we can discuss more in a separate platform. But if there are any more questions, students can type in their details in the public chat, and I would suggest Professor Suryakanan also from inside to share his phone number or email ID in case the students want to note down and get in touch with you for any other concerns that they can be addressed also. So that is Sharanya ma'am. Are there more questions?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Are we looking at more questions in the public chat? I'm not able to access it from my side.
Steve has asked a question. Let me read it out. Hello, sir. Can we have a little bit more in depth into beatboxing with architecture? That is his question.
Okay. So yeah, beatboxing in terms of now you know what beatboxing is, right? So in terms of architecture, I got this idea when I was interning at SDEG, which is Sujit Nair Design Group. Actually, one of the students from McGans was my co-intern there as well. His name is Barney. So one day, I still remember this. So I have an eidetic memory. I know what exactly happened where. So I think one time after lunch, we were just having our usual daily lemon tea. So at that point of time, I just had this idea of like, why not fuse beatboxing and architecture together? So what is essentially happening, the logic which I can share with you guys is the concept of a stimulus and a response, right? So that is what you learn in your biology back in 6th or 7th standard, right? So if you pinch yourself, it hurts. There's a pain, there's a response, right? So the pinch is the stimulus and the response is like, it's hurting me, right? So that essentially that logic, I applied it to beatboxing and architecture, right? Beatboxing is the stimulus which will affect a 3D mass, which will ultimately give us a response. That is the intent, right? The response is coming from this virtual space, and beatboxing is a stimulus, the audio file, or which is the audio MP3, which is being sent out. So if you understand characteristics of sound, there are many things to it, right? So each human voice is different, as well as when you beatbox, even every time you beatbox, for example, there are 4 different sounds. Each sound is different from each other, right? And even if I repeat that same beat again, it's not going to be the same. So each time there is some difference to it. So again, understand this concept of non-fungible, which means it can never be the same again, and no matter how many times I do it. So for example, there is this complex beat which goes like, so even I don't know what I just did over there, right? It's just a matter of putting a bunch of sounds together to make a beat. So that is what is happening in the subconscious level. So that, in terms of a response, is what you see in this particular meta voice. If you want to see that, you can just head over to colorment.io/token/2169. So that is the link for the where you can see the meta voice in action. The name of the non-fungible token is basically meta voice 01, right? So that is another place where a lot of architects are jumping in, because we have so much of artistic works which can never be constructed, but it can be there as a digital asset in the metaverse, right? So you can basically see that NFT in action. And that is how I research. So my next version 2 of this would be to have an interface between the human voice and a particular system. So that is going to be version 2. Ultimately, what I would like to be doing with this is essentially give a platform where students can or anyone can design anything using the human voice, right? A human voice interaction. So that is ultimately what I want to do with this particular research project. And again, no one else is doing this, because it's very hard to find a beatboxer and an architect, right? So yeah, that is kind of what I'm trying to do with this particular research project. If that was your question, actually, Steve.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much. So Mitali, she had to say something. Thank you so much, sir, for introducing this. And yeah. Steve says thank you. Yeah. Any more questions, audience? I have a question, Abhishek sir. It's me only, Saranya. So the thing is, like you said, you were very much into beatboxing and all that. So later, you said you had fell in love with architecture. So which was the point that actually made you fall for it?
So I still remember, in our first semester, we had to design, one of our minor projects was to design a bus stand. So we had to go case study a bus stand and, do the entire thing, get the measurements, anthropology, right, and everything. So at that point of time, I designed a bus stand, as well as, again, I didn't just want to stick to a bus stand. So my bus stand had so many different, like, futuristic innovations and, different things like that. So at that point of time, I also wanted to design a network, or how bus stations would work and be connected with each other, right? And that is something which the professor didn't ask for. I just did that just because I wanted to. The same thing happened even with my thesis as well. So they asked me to design something, but I I did that anyways, but I did something more because again, I need to be happy with my own work. So just a bus stand for me doesn't work. So I always need that extra answer paper, which students ask for, like one more paper to write something extra, right? So I had that approach, and the professors actually ended up liking it. So that for me, that was really good, because that was the first time where I genuinely felt happy with like what I had created. So again, now I don't think that's a major thing at all. But at that point, when I was new to architecture and I was just still figuring it out, for me, that was an amazing feeling. So that is when I started understanding, okay, architecture also, there is so much of, things which I can explore. So beatboxing is one which allows me to travel, perform, and, do all these other things. Architecture is something for me where I inherently feel happy when I can create something, right? So for me, creating something is way more important than, anything else. So if at the end of the day, if I can create something, even if for me, I just can't sit still, I have to keep doing something or the other just to create something. So, that for me, that is most important. Otherwise, my mind just starts rotting, and I can't, without creating something, I just can't go to bed. So I at the end of the day, I need something to sleep for. So yeah, that's my
Yes,
thing.
sir.
It's both a curse and a good thing. So it's both a pain and a good thing. So yeah.
Joy. Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you on that. Sanil sir, can we go to the video session?
Yeah, ma'am. I think we can play the video.
Yeah. Audience, now we'll be playing a short video on McGans. Hari sir?
Yes.
On to you, sir.
A serene ambience to nurture your creative minds. State-of-the-art infrastructure to achieve the elevated learning curve. A library that is a beacon of answers and inspiration. Dedicated professionals as faculties. A family of senior students to guide you at any moment. Cozy and comforting residential quarters that lived among the mother nature. Studying at McGans is an aspiring architect's dream come true. We are the McGans Ooty School of Architecture.
Thank you, Hari sir. Now I call upon Sanil Kumar, our head of the Department of Architecture, McGans, to deliver the oath of thanks. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sharanya ma'am. First of all, I'm really happy that the webinar went very smoothly and we were able to have an audience with two lovely presenters today, two lovely speakers who have actually achieved a lot in terms of the field of architecture. They've explored new dimensions in this field of architecture. So that is actually rare in terms of the fact that we could get two people who are in sync with architecture, in sync with developments of architecture and dimensions of architecture. There is more coming from them, and we are hopeful in another few months we'll be able to witness more interactions with them. At least I will thank architect Abishek Bhaskar for gracing us with his presence today. And he's a really busy personality, but I'm very happy that he's associating with McGans on a longer journey. He's going to be associated with McGans for developing and being associated with partnering with us for lectures on parametric design, on AI, on aspects related to MR, AR, and VR. So that's something which I'm looking forward to, and this particular aspect of research, and I'm very sure a very popular thing with the students, the fact that the faculty can break into a rhythm and can break it into a beat, and express it to them and describe the beat also in architectural forms. I'm very thankful that I had an audience with you and we all had a good talk from you and a good session with you. A very big thanks from my side. I also thank our guest of honor, Umesh Kumar, for taking time out of his busy schedule to guide the students in a well-formatted system, and telling the students not to be stressed and telling the students to be relaxed. And this has been a big gesture from your side, both your sides, that you took time out and you are with us today and you're addressing a very young audience, a very confused audience, I would say, because this is a time which we all have covered in our lives 20 years ago, 15 years ago, maybe. But this has been, this is one initiative that we are pushing across, that we are trying to get the industry experts to come in and talk to the students and make them relax. So I thank you both for this wonderful gesture and looking forward to more associations with you. And I also thank our team, including our dean, principal, Professor Surikanan, and his able team who has been supporting this event. I also thank our professors, Professor Sharanya, who's been working on this, along with Professor Jeffria, who have been, organizing this every week. We have been trying to get this on a more frequent basis because we want to reach out to the maximum students. Maybe the students miss an event and then they can come in again. But there are questions and there are doubts and there are confusions. So we want to clarify them. We are hoping that every day that we put in the effort, this would be helpful. But this would not be possible without people like you, architects like Umesh sir and Abishek sir, who have been really cooperative for this. Thank you. I thank all the webinar participants, to all the students. Thank you to all the students who have been here and to all volunteers who have been part of this event. I thank you all. I wish you a good evening. I'm looking forward to a wonderful days ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Sunil Kumar and Abhishek. It was fantastic. Enjoyed your beatboxing. And
likewise, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving this opportunity. Would definitely love to interact with the students and aspirants, because they come up with a lot of inhibitions, doubts, and all of that. And it's my pleasure to clear those inhibitions. Thank you so much for the opportunity. All right.
Absolutely. And Dr. Sanil Kumar sir, thank you so much. And Selva Kumar sir as well, if he's here. Thank you so much, sir. And yeah, looking forward to a productive few months ahead, where we can, share whatever knowledge we have with the students so that they can develop the future versions of whatever we give them. So yeah, absolutely looking forward to it. And thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
He was there, Abhishek.
Oh, you're there, sir. Okay, super. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you, Umesh.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
It was a wonderful combination. Umesh, Abhishek, and Dr. Sanil and Sharanya. Lovely. Hope we added some values in the young minds. Thank you.
See you, sir. See you, ma'am. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care and stay safe. Please stay safe. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.
Thank you, Surya.
Thank you, sir.
Nice session.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
See you tomorrow.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.